every department on this show, people who are working at the very, very top of their game. It's an extraordinary visual experience. And I mean, tonally, music, for an example. I mean, that music made us cry when we heard it. It's all about soul. It's humanity, and and struggle, and all those things. Actually, the music is a very good example of it. It encapsulates, exactly what I meant. I mean, in terms of acting, and it's respect for the source. Always return to the source material, and that's how you get the tone right, and that's how I know that we've done it.
There was something said in the panel yesterday, I think J.D. Payne, one of the showrunners, said it, that the series was primarily about how far into the darkness would you go to protect the things you care about the most. And I wondered if that meant that all of the characters have some kind of struggle with the darkness within them.
Yeah, I think we can all feel it. We all know that it's there. It's almost like a bird's eye view. There's just this rumble across the entirety of Middle-earth, and every single kingdom, race or section of Middle-earth is just feeling the heat and feeling the ripple. And over the course of the season and time, you will see how all of the above will affect us, and how it unravels for each the tapestry of how it unravels for each world.
I'm obsessed with Harfoots. We know that they're kind of Hobbit-like, but there are some differences. What differences can you talk to us about? And do they enjoy second breakfast just as much?
Do you know, someone else asked me that today. That's the first time someone asked me today, and now you as well. So they are the ancestors to the hobbits, and the differences between them is mostly in the way that the Harfoots live. So they don't have a home base like the hobbits did in later years. The Harfoots are migratory, they're nomads. They take their homes with them, they travel the lands, and they try to stay hidden from the wide world due to elements in their past.
I know lots of the cast have often come up to me and said, oh, the Harfoots are the heart of the story. I think they are, insofar as they're probably the only world that doesn't have agency over the story. Whatever political negotiations, whatever sort of decisions that are made regarding the rise of evil, all we do is suffer. We just receive. And I always think of the Harfoots as having a little flame. And if that flame goes out, the whole Middle-earth is in trouble. So our reason for hiding, for moving, is to keep that little flame alive. And unlike the hobbits of the Shire, we're very conscious of what we're fighting for every day, because there are no luxuries and we're constantly under duress and sufferance. So
J.D. Payne said, dwarves are often the butt of jokes, but he promises that there are really cool things to be done with dwarves.
There seems to be a lot of depth to Durin. We go to every extremity of his emotions. So we see him blind with fury. We see him bawling his eyes out, laughing at the top of his head. Every emotion. It's great as an actor to be given a role and to play a different being, that you get to explore all these emotions and how the journey it takes to go there. And what's not surprising, I suppose, is that we're quite sensitive. I think Durin has a sensitivity to him and reacts quickly to what happens in front of him.
We learned yesterday about dwarf women having beards. How does he feel about the bearded ladies in his life?
Well, he absolutely adores her, and a little bit terrified of her, I'm not going to lie. She's, excuse the expression, but she wears the trousers. But there's, what's great, I mean, it's in Sophia as well. Sophia and Disa are not far apart, I don't think. But there's a lot of passion between them. We explore that, but there's a real closeness to them.
Queen Regent, she wasn't that in the books, and I'm wondering, why was the change made, and what's the importance to you of having a woman as a powerful political figure in this role?
Well, Queen Regent is a clue, right? So it gives you some information, and you will definitely have a better understanding as we sort of let the story unfold. And in terms of having this sort of female figurehead, sort of ruling or looking to rule over Numenor, that's a very special thing. I'm very proud to sort of embody that. But I think there's something to be said, whether the character is male or female. My view of it was a person that is burdened by that responsibility and wanting to make the right choices for her people. And so there's that sense of wanting to keep the peace, wanting to keep the stability of a society that she can feel is beginning to shift under her feet. I love our storyline in Numenor. I love all the storylines, of course, but Numenor, what's great about our sort of version, this is the first time we're presenting it on screen. So I think a lot of people who have read the books and read the lore, they have a vision in their mind of some of those characters, they have a vision in their mind of that landscape, but we actually get to bring it to life, and I think it's beautiful, and it's a collective effort, for sure.
Daniel and Charlie, this is a question for both of you. Now, both of your characters are new. They were not written by Tolkien, and everyone is like, hey, that's Sauron, you're Sauron, someone else is Sauron. And Daniel, in your case, there's been some Gandalf speculation, but what is your reaction to all this speculation?
I think it's amazing. It's fantastic that so many people out there have such ownership of this material, that they understand the nuances and the finer detail, that they're able to extrapolate what we've given them and turn it into really well-rounded arguments as to why a character might be such and such a person or such a being. And so it just makes me appreciate the fandom even more, and quite what their relationship is with the source material. And then going to Charlie's point, when we know what we've poured into it, it makes us more confident that we're doing exactly what the fans hopefully want, which is respecting that, loving that, pouring all our energy into giving them what will enable them to enjoy this when they finally see it unfurl.
Yeah, and I think that's the key to it. It's waiting for things to unfurl as the show progresses, because that's the exciting stuff. You wait to see what happens. But I could not have said it better myself.
Trystan, Pharazôn is a heavyweight character in Lord of the Rings lore.
Oh, thank you very much. I feel good about myself.
And he's quite a loathsome character. But are there any elements within your version of him that we might empathise with?
Well, I think with Pharazôn, being a typical man, that he doesn't wear Old Spice and drink beer, but he has a deep love for his community. He has a deep love for his people. He has a deep love for Míriel. And when you can love that deeply, what do you do? It can make you do things, to protect your kingdom, to protect your people, to advance your civilization. How far do you go with that? So I don't think we see a totally altruistic character when you see him. We see a person who is very committed to the cause of bettering his civilization. That's what we see.
Kemen is Pharazôn's son. How does he impact Pharazôn's story?
I'm not sure how I can answer that without giving away some plot details. I think the friction between the two is that Pharazôn is obsessed with his legacy. He's further along in his life. He's thinking about what he'll leave behind. I think for the men of that island, they're always thinking about how they can leave an imprint on this earth. Whereas Kemen is young and he's having a great time. The status quo has suited him really well. He's not necessarily trying to buck anything or trying to create massive change that he'll be remembered by. He's just enjoying living in a golden age. And I think his dad would rather he brought some new ideas to the table rather than just wear silk and drink wine.
Trust fund children.
They need to be represented on screen.
I keep calling them heavyweight law drivers, and that's what you are, Maxim, as Isildur.
Yeah.
What we've seen him on screen before, and Tolkien fans will be very familiar with his role as the character who cuts the ring from Sauron's finger. But what have you brought to the character that was maybe not there in black and white or on screen before?
Yeah, it's an interesting character because you've obviously seen where he ends up, and that's kind of his kind of splash in the films and the books. But the show is set thousands of years beforehand, and we have that wonderful gift of being able to explore the characters just as they're starting out. So you get to see him around his family, around his friends. And I kind of wanted to explore this character in more of a kind of an honest way. He's kind of confused as to where he belongs, what his aims and goals are. He's trying to fulfill his father's destiny and be a kind of sea captain, but he's also desperate for something else. And there's like a deep yearning for the other, you know. Mm-hmm. So I think you can relate to him in that way, that he doesn't really fit in anywhere. So that was something I kind of brought to it.
I'm playing Eärien, and she's Isildur's younger sister. They've both been raised by a single dad. So despite being the youngest, she's kind of trying to be the mother that's not there. She's quite capable and therefore kind of overlooked by her dad because her brother is far more of a troublemaker. And that sort of lack of attention makes her quite vulnerable to attention from other sources that may or may not be good. Yeah.
There's so much attention to details in your costumes, and the community is wondering, is there anything in particular about your costume that has special significance to your character that might not get a chance to really come through on screen?
So the Harfoot costumes, they have these apple seeds, and the apple seeds represent all of those Harfoots who have died before, who have passed away in previous migrations.
And we bury our dead in an apple orchard that we hold very sacred. So you'll see the elderly having many, many apple seeds because they've seen all those people fall.
All over their costumes, which just prove the amount of life that they have lived and how many souls that they have known. Every single Harfoot has some people have them on bracelets, some people have them hidden in pockets. It's just like a really small detail, but it's just so wonderful, and yeah, it's something that I hold very dear to my heart.
They carry a lot of significance for each of our characters, and I believe that every tribe had something similar that had significance for them.
Right.
Well, being in Khazad-dûm and with Khazad-dûm being at the height of its glory, if that's right to say, having gold on us was quite a big part, and the small details that you'd see on our hands, and you've probably seen them from the posters when we released posters of the hands. We had gold on our fingers, and that's kind of just to enhance the wealth, I suppose, of Khazad-dûm. And same with our boots. Dwarf have a different physicality to human to me. Not that far, but didn't have to stretch too far with it. But what we discovered is that there was a lot of weight in their feet, in their legs, and from that came these big golden toes that is quite prominent, I think, of Durin and Disa.
Did you regret that later?
Absolutely.
Making that question? I was just thinking that.
To this day.
That wasn't very smart.
To this day, Sophia's kind of as we
really
did
cranky with you?
Oh yeah, it's my fault.
So you'll notice in some of the promo for Theo, he's wearing a jacket. And that jacket is someone's jacket who we don't get to meet. And there's a lot of questions about that, and Theo has some about it as well. And that's all I can say. I may have said already too much.
Playing Elendil, being a Númenórean, and the way that JD and Patrick have set it up. He's a widower, and he's trying to bring up these adult children. It's a very turbulent effect of that bereavement on all of us. But he wears a ring, and they carved in Elvish on it, because he's a mariner and he's a sea captain, that his wife had given him, is safe return in Quenya. So that's a beautiful piece there.
Me and Kate Hawley had some great conversations about his history, where he's come from, his family, and there's some great cities in his line, you know, that crossed his parents and where his parents come from and stuff. So there are elements of the costume, even either directly or in the idea of them, you know, that are like directly related to his familial history, which I thought was like a really cool idea by Kate. You know, the idea of wearing history, you know, with Elrond's name obviously meaning law, you know, and he's a law master, so yeah, that was cool.
I'm going to finish on favourite creatures.
Well, we saw a Balrog last night, and I have to say, it comes out tops for me. To see that again is quite exciting.
It's a good pick.
I'm hoping that at some stage in however this develops, there might be a hint of dragon.
A hint of dragon. That sounds like a cologne.
It's natural.
I don't want to see any creatures. I want to have a nice life.
Sounds like you're pretty protected.
I'm going to say the orcs. And I mean, the orcs on this show, I know we've seen orcs represented on screen in the past, and this, I feel like, is a next level situation, and my hat's off to our makeup artists and our actors, our performers who embody these orcs on screen, and they really are incredible.
I love Ents. I think they're really cool.
Yes.
I'd love to see an Ent. I'd love to come across an Ent.
I think sea monsters are always a bit terrifying, aren't they?
Yeah.
You never quite know their full. You never know what they always look like, so it's always that unknown, and I hate the sea sometimes.
So
You never know what's below.
I'll go with cats and/or dogs, the less celebrated Tolkien creatures. Dogs like werewolves. Werewolves fall into that. And there's a cat called Tevildo who used to be around in the Silmarillion, which was it was a house cat, a giant house cat.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, had a collar and everything. This is legit. Yeah.
What a lovely one to end on. Thank you so much, everyone. That was cool, and so much looking forward to the series.